Welcome back. The Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism will host the Agenda of National Stakeholder Forum on Wildlife Protection and Law Enforcement on the 3rd of July in the capital city, Windhoek. Romeo Muyanda, who is the Chief Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, now joins us to elaborate further. Romeo, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you very much for having me.
To begin with, Romeo, let's talk about, the objectives of the upcoming forum on wildlife protection and law enforcement.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a forum that we have started back in 2022. And the forum really is called by the ministry, which is the lead agency in the protection of our natural resources, to bring together different stakeholders that are involved in the fight against wildlife crime, so that we are able to dissect the issue of wildlife crime. We look into the current situation, but also devise some new measures in terms of how we can resolve wildlife crime in the country. Mm-hmm. Initially, when we had this forum for the first time in 2022, we looked at the different strategies that we have, especially the national strategy on wildlife protection that we have been implementing together with stakeholders. So we looked into that and revised it accordingly, according to the current trends. So in a nutshell, this forum really just looks to bring together stakeholders so that we discuss wildlife crime and look into interventions that we can employ to resolve wildlife crime in the country.
Romeo, what are some of the major wildlife crime issues that the ministry is looking to address through this forum?
Yeah, I think many people may already know that we are facing a challenge in terms of wildlife protection in the country, where our high-valued species, rhinos, elephants, and pangolins are being targeted for their horns, their ivory, and scales, which are exported elsewhere in the world. And this has been the challenge, I think, since 2013, when we started recording a surge of poaching in high-valued species. And this seems like it is continuing, and it's very dynamic in the country. And these are some of the worrisome trends that is bringing us to bring the stakeholders together that are involved in the protection of wildlife in the country, so that we create the synergies that are necessary. We create the strategies that are necessary so that we are able to uphold the constitutional mandate that we have as a ministry, but also the provision that the Constitution provides for the country to protect our natural resources and utilize them in a sustainable manner, so that the current and the future generations are able to benefit from them.
What are some of, or perhaps you can provide an overview for us on the current state of wildlife poaching and trafficking in Namibia?
Yeah, like I've mentioned earlier, the situation at the moment is very worrisome. We continue to see poaching cases, especially in areas that we do not want. For example, in the Etosha National Park. We know that the Etosha is our flagship park in the country. And unfortunately, syndicates have penetrated the Etosha National Park, and we have recorded high numbers of poaching there. We see poaching taking place in private farms where we have white rhinos. We see poaching taking place also in other private farms where we have given our rhinos for custodianship. And this has been worrisome for the ministry. And if I can tell you already, we have passed the 50 mark in Namibia. And the year we are just halfway along the year. And this is worrisome, and we do not want to anticipate what the number would be come end of the year. 50 rhinos poached in a country is too much.
Yeah.
But in terms of elephant, I think we have been faring very well. We see low numbers of poaching. I think this year already we just have 5 elephants that were recorded poached. The other worrisome scenario is that of pangolins. We see a lot of pangolins that are being trafficked for their scales. A lot of confiscations have been made. But I think what is the amount of suspects that we are arresting is very encouraging for law enforcement officers, because last year we arrested over 500 suspects in regards to high valid species, crimes committed against high valid species. For as much as this has been done, poaching still continues unabated, and it is for this reason that we feel that we need to engage as stakeholders. We need to look into our current strategies, look into how we can sharpen them, strengthen them, so that we can be able to reduce poaching in this country and achieve the constitutional mandate that we are set to achieve.
Romeo, what are some of the trends that we see when it comes to wildlife trafficking and poaching, or perhaps the main drivers behind this?
Yeah, I think number one, on top of it is just the greed that people want more and more money, and they are taking risks to get this money. And we have noticed that poaching is driven by demand, obviously, and the demand is not in Namibia. It is elsewhere in the world. Those people that are looking for these products from wild animals are willing to pay hefty amounts of money. And of course, they have commercialized this illegal market of illicit products that come from wild animals. And because of that, a lot of Namibians are taking this risk to undertake into these activities. Like I said, we have arrested a number of them. And what is worrisome to see is that the majority of those that we arrest are Namibians. That means that we are allowing poaching to take place in the country instead of condemning it. Apart from the demand that comes from elsewhere and the greed of money, I think we can also put or throw in the poverty levels, because we have observed in some areas people at grassroots levels are being lured to take part in these poaching syndicates without knowing the implications in terms of the law, and they are offered, of course, maybe peanuts or small amounts of money for them to be able to go into these protected areas and poach our wild animals. Apart from that, also, I think it's the general understanding. I think as a society and as a country, we haven't really pronounced ourselves in terms of what is it that we want, because often when we engage in public platforms, you'll hear people say, well, it suits them to be killed, because what do we benefit from them? Right. So I think we haven't accepted the fact that our wild animals are really a resource in this country. And despite the fact that one is not benefiting directly, the country generates a lot of revenue from tourists that come to see these high-valued species. This is the revenue that builds our hospitals, our clinics, our schools, and buys us medicine. And our brothers and sisters are employed in these tourism establishments where these tourists are coming and are getting paid, and they are feeding their families. So these are some of the benefits that people are actually overlooking. But as a country, we haven't really found a footing to say that this is what we want for our country, this is what we want for our natural resources.
Well, Romeo, on that note, that's all the time we have this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to the positive outcomes from this forum.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Mr. Romeo Muyunda, the Chief Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, speaking to us there. We'll be right back.